Welcome back to Mike's Miniatures, the place for all things mini wargaming. And in today's episode of Faction Friday, we're going to go on to talk about the Black Templars and the Last Wall Protocol again. So, if you remember, the Last Wall Protocol is where all of the different chapters that are successors of the Imperial Fist can come together to recreate the 7th Legion, and the Black Templars in the lore did respond to the Last Wall Protocol in the War of the Beast. And let's just get into that chapter. This was my first ever Space Marine chapter when I started this hobby. I just love the theming of it, the how they play, and black was just a fun, easy color for me to get started with. But this is the logo of the Black Templars here. They are, well, the main color is black, and they have this Knight Hospitaller cross, as I think it's the Maltese cross is what you would call it, on a field of white. And typically their trim is black or red, depending if they're a specialist unit or not. This here is the some facts about it here. So the Black Templars are from the second founding during the 31st millennium. So right after the Horus Heresy, when the 7th Legion first split, this was one of the chapters that was first created out of the legions here. Their current leader is High Marshal Helbrecht, but their original leader, his name was Sigismund, who was the Emperor's champion during the Siege of Terra during the Horus Heresy. The Emperor's champion is a guy who wields a sword, fights all the champions of the enemies of the Imperium of Man, Chaos Demons, evil Chaos Soldiers or Xenos or whatnot. He just goes, he finds the biggest and the baddest guy, and he'll fight him one-on-one until either he dies or the enemy dies. And so the Black Templars carry on that tradition with an Emperor's champion here. They are a fleet-based chapter only. They do not have a home world. They have a big old battleship called the Eternal Crusader, which is their main base where the chapter master is on. That's basically the main gist of the Black Templars right there. Oh, and they're not Codex compliant, period. Whereas the Codex Astartes tells Space Marine chapter that at one time they can have no more than 1,000 fully initiated Space Marines. They could have thousands of different scouts or people being recruited, but they can't have anything more than 1,000 actual active Marines. The Black Templars looked at the Codex and saw the rule that says, unless you're on a crusade where you're going to take a lot of losses, you shouldn't have more than 1,000. They said, bet. And now there's no official number of how many Black Templars there are in the lore. It's speculated that they could be anywhere from 6,000 to 100,000, rivaling the size of the original 7th Legion, but they're all not in the same place. They're spread throughout the galaxy on many different crusades, and really only the High Marshal, Helbrecht, is the one who knows exactly how many there are, but he's not going to say anything to them. and those who are strict about the Codex and the Empire, no. So why collect the Black Templars? Well, for first and foremost, they are aggressive and close attack specialists. So if you don't want to deal with a lot of the shooting from your enemies from afar, but want to get up close and personal, think literally Night Crusaders in space. These are your guys. This model range is also very well supported now by Games Workshop, being as they are as, if not more popular than the Imperial Fist. They have a lot of good kits that way. And probably the best combat patrol box in my personal opinion, which is what you can see here. with two other boxes. This is basically an example of how you can get started with an army. It's about 605 points. The combat patrol will come with a Marshal character. That's the guy with the skeleton on his back power pack right there, wielding the sword up in the air. It comes with 5 intercessors, which is your standard basic Space Marine unit. Then they have a Crusader Squad, a 10-man, which is a very unique unit only to the Black Templars. They don't have a scout company. They have scouts act as squires to their initiates, basically. So they have it combined that way. So you can see the guys without the helmets are kind of squires to the guys in full power armor that have the tabards. And they are led by a sword brother who is like an expert or martial leader in close combat, and is like a veteran of the chapter right there. And they typically have the red trim armor in the lore, and that's how Games Workshop has them painted right there. And the Combat Patrol, it's one of the last ones that actually comes with a good centerpiece vehicle model, in this case being an impulsor, which is a basic transport. So you can load up your Marshal with the intercessors, or your other special box that I would recommend you get, the Sword Brothers down there. They're the ones with the capes and the unique, all other weapons except for one of them actually has a sword. The rest have like lightning claws and axes and maces and that. These guys are your elite veterans that can load up in the Impulsor and just get them right down to the middle or far end of the battlefield and drop them off and watch them just slay the enemy. So, and no Black Templar army would be complete without a chaplain. So for this small 600 point army, I would recommend we get us a chaplain leader. That's just 3 boxes right there, and you're looking at, if you were to go buy them directly from Games Workshop, that's about $270.50, which is not too bad. Still, that's really expensive. At time of recording, I looked on Amazon for these same 3 boxes, and you could get them for a bit cheaper at $221.41, which that's a bit more reasonable than our last video with the Imperial Fists, which was in the 300s. But not too bad. We could probably make it work. But this is just one sample list using the Combat Patrol. I'm going to give you 2 more here. So here is our third one. So you're still getting Combat Patrol, you're still getting a box of the Sword Brothers, but this time, for your Chaplain model, we're going to do a special character, Grimaldus and his retinue. So Grimaldus is a hero in this chapter. He's the high chaplain of all chaplains within the chapter, and there is a book called the Hell's Reach, which I recommend. If you haven't read the book, there is a video here, even on YouTube, that is called Hell's Reach. It's a fan-made video that's just done brilliantly, showing the book and Grimaldus from his point of view. And I watched that originally and just fell in love with the faction even more, and Grimaldus. So if you didn't want a generic chaplain, get Grimaldus. And this army here, MSRP would be $288.50, so a little more expensive, especially with Amazon. You can get it for $230.71, so it's just about a little more expensive, but this is an awesome way to collect them as well. Now, if you don't want the chaplain option, there is another fun way that you could do this army here. And that's switching out any chaplain for an Emperor's Champion and get him an extra box of Sword Brothers to lead. You can combine the 2 boxes of Sword Brothers to make a 10-man squad for the champion to lead, or you can keep them split into 5s and attach the champion to one of the Sword Brothers, get them in the Impulsor, and just drive down the battlefield. And this guy, the Emperor's Champion, is a character slayer, and using the Sword Brothers, which are no slouches themselves, kind of as in a way, meat shields to protect him. He can then slay your enemy's warlords and things like that and just chew through the enemies. As long as they aren't totally shot up before they can get to the end of the field because they are melee specialists. They still have shooting, don't get me wrong, but they are much better and have with the close combat attacks and have more bonuses that way. But yeah, swapping out the um, Grimaldus with this special unit and another box of Sword Brothers. This is the most expensive at $335 MSRP or $270.23, and it's adding an extra box there. But ultimately, as you can see through at the time of recording with the three different Amazon prices, you can get started with a good size Black Templars army for just under $300. Now, this is something that's unique right here. This is High Marshal Helbrecht. He is one of the few chapter masters for Space Marines that's actually got a model for the tabletop right here. MSRP at $58 from Games Workshop. Amazon, as of time of recording, you can get them a little cheaper at $49.30. But this guy is just a powerhouse, and I just did a little screenshot here of just some of his stats as of time of filming here. You can see, I mean, melee right there, 12 attacks on 2 plus, strength 6, and armor piercing -3 for your opponent. So basically, when you play Warhammer, you roll your dice on a 2 plus, you hit, and then based on strength there. The strength 6, that's definitely stronger than standard Space Marine armor. So you can get up to a 3 plus to make sure that it wounds, and for them to save. If anything, they have to. Your opponent will have to almost always roll a 5 or a 6 just to see if they can save the wound. And it's hard to get those high numbers when that's you're limited to a 5, and in some cases you have to get a 6 or better, and that's yeah. You can always get this guy. He's paired wonderfully with Sword Brothers as it just like the Emperor's Champion. Recommend that you do that if you want to. I don't recommend getting him as a start immediately. Definitely work towards getting him. I'm still working towards getting him, but along with all my other projects here. But ultimately, if you want to get this guy just even for your collection, I'll just go ahead and get that. Okay, so what do you need to paint these guys? You're going to want to get black. Abaddon black is a great base color. Just paint the whole thing black, and then dry brush it with a dark gray like Mechanicus Standard Gray for a quick tabletop effect. You can always be more precise with your edge highlighting with the darker grays, but if I find it's easier to just dry brush it. To get it quick and easy out on the field. The shoulder pads, I just layer it first with a layer of Wraithbone and then with Pallid Witch Flesh. That color alone helps bring out the pearl white. Mephiston red is great for the reds. Averland Sunset's good for yellows if you want to do the heraldry on like Tilt Shields yellow, things like that. And Lead Belcher is great for the silvers, things like that. Tabards, because these models are some of the few that actually have those little tabard things, can be any color you want. A lot of people, and especially Games Workshop for like the veterans, like to paint them red and the rest of them white, but there's no wrong color. Mine, I like to do kind of like an off tannish white to show that these are like relic armors and relic tabards and that have survived many years of battle. But there's really no wrong way to paint up your Black Templar as long as there's a lot of black. But if you decide to go any other colors, that's perfectly fine too. Just make sure your opponents know that, yes, these are Black Templars, but hey, I like them to be a little more white than black or red or things like that. It's your models. You can paint them the way you like. So But that's the Black Templars right there. I love this army. I hope you guys, at least in the short time that you've been with me, have seen why this is a good and fun army to collect and paint. It's just Crusaders in space, and it's a fun time to not only collect and paint, but also play on the tabletop here. But thank you so much for your time. I've been Mike, and this is Mike's Miniatures. Subscribe, like, comment, share this video with your friends, and we will do on the next Friday, Faction Fridays, we will look at another Space Marine chapter possibly, and then we'll if unless you guys in the comments tell me what faction you would like to see next, and or kind of army to do, we can do that as well. But until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye bye.